Gwinnett Center International Film Festival. I'm here with Mark Datuin, who is the director of Basted. So tell me a little bit about your film, Mark.
Okay, well, Basted is about two young women who are competing for a third roommate. And when this newcomer comes in, he is completely unaware of the competition that's going on, and these two women become very ruthless in vying for that person's attention.
Now, one of the aspects of your film I like really well is the relationship between the two roommates. This is like the perfect worst case scenario between two roommates that I could possibly imagine. Tell me a little bit about how you came up with that ideal to do a film about.
Yeah, so basically when I was at the University of Toronto, I didn't actually stay on campus myself, but I had a lot of friends and colleagues that did, and they had a lot of nightmare stories about being paired up with the wrong roommate. And while this doesn't take place in a university setting, what I did was I wanted to put two characters that I already had in mind together, two very opposite characters, and that's kind of like what their situations were, being paired up with someone completely different. And but Cassie and Eileen in the film, what they are is there is this love-hate relationship, even though they do, yeah. So they care deeply about each other, and it seems like it's very routine, and that's how it is. Like you do end up as a family, you love and you hate them, and that's what puts more at stake, and why they were very competitive with each other.
So how was it working with these two actresses and creating that relationship or of discourse between the two?
Okay, well, I'll start with Sarah Cunningham. She plays Eileen. Sarah and I have this. We've worked on several projects already together.
Oh, okay.
She's fantastic. She's a great friend as well. And she just totally understood the character. I've actually wrote this part with her specifically in mind, and we've had a lot of discussions before we even started filming. So she already got the character down pat right from the start. She's extremely versatile, and you know, halfway through the film, she sort of shifts. She shifts character a bit, and that's exactly we work together on like how can we make her sort of change halfway through, and she just totally understood the character. Victoria Sullivan, who plays Cassie, as well. Like I knew her before we started working together, and she's another fantastic, hardworking actress, and super talented as well. And then it was very easy in terms of the rehearsal process. It was a very quick turnaround time, and it was pretty much one rehearsal, and they just completely got it. They had really great chemistry. They're also good friends outside of filming as well.
Oh wow! How long did it take you to film this?
It was 2.5 days.
Oh
yeah. So the planning from conception was about two weeks from conception to filming. So it was a very fast turnaround time. We did it with a very low budget, and we were basically on vacation, and we decided to write a film while we were going to go on vacation. So it was planned just pretty much 2 weeks before, and that's where it is. Like everyone was very passionate. The cast and crew were very passionate about this project.
Well, I will say that without that relationship between your main two stars, you wouldn't really have much of a film. They play off each other so well in this film.
Yeah, those two are extremely fantastic, and and also what else was from what was written to the script and to what was finally filmed, they brought so much of themselves to it. The whole banter at the end of the film, that was completely improvised.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so.
So tell me a little bit about maybe what your next project is, or where you're going with this film, actually.
Okay, so Basted actually is in the middle of its festival run. So it's been accepted to 5 festivals. We just came back from Milledgeville, where it won Best International Film, and next week it's going to the Fort McMurray Film Festival in Canada, and that's our Canadian premiere. So it's nice to have our premiere back home. And it's going from there. So my next few projects, I do have 3 projects in post-production right now. The next one that's coming out is called White Lock, and we have a very talented cast and crew in that, and it's another ensemble piece. It's a pretty big project, and I'm very excited to show the world that.
Okay, well, I look forward to seeing those films. Hopefully, you'll send them to me.
Yes, of course.
So I want to ask you, how has your experience been here with the film festival this year?
It's been fantastic. First of all, the weather was, as soon as we drove 15 hours from Toronto, so as soon as we got here, the first thing we noticed was the weather, and how amazing it is. It's raining in Toronto right now. I believe the whole weekend it's raining there, and so that's the first thing. And then the people are super nice. This is even before we set foot here at the convention center. And then once we got here, it's like it was really a nice experience. I've never had been to a festival where it was very organized in one convention center, and the screen was fantastic, and it's really nice. Actually, the first thing I did was the panel discussion, and I'm a newbie to that. I've only done Q&As before, but panel discussion I came in not knowing exactly what to do. But the rest of the panelists were fantastic. It was great to meet them. I learned a lot as well. It's always great to talk to other writers. Yeah, and I think it's been great so far.
Yeah, one of the things I really love about what I'm trying to do here is bring people together in panel discussions, because that's a little bit different than when you do a Q&A. And it allows you to not only give your audiences some of the information you've learned from making film, but you also get to learn stuff from your other panel discussions.
Right,
and then you get the audiences to ask questions that maybe you hadn't thought of before, but
exactly.
now you can.
Yeah, that's definitely true, and it's nice to actually get to listen to other writers, what their process is, especially, and not just related to their own projects, but what any feedback they can give. Because I mean, everyone is learning. It doesn't matter how veteran you are of a writer or a director. You know, every project I feel like I'm learning something, and I learned a lot just in that panel discussion alone. So.
Well, I'm glad that that's been beneficial. I'm sure it's going to be beneficial for everyone who watches it when we post it online.
Yes.
Is there anything else you want to tell people about your film? Because I know it's making this festival circuit. It might be going to their city soon.
Yes. Well, you know what? It is just a very light-hearted, fun film, and we're getting a lot of positive response from the audience, and I'm just very happy that it is getting a positive response, especially in Georgia. I mean, This is our second festival in Georgia, and
oh, nice.
Okay. And a lot of people have given us positive feedback. And,
okay, excellent. So for you out there, look for the movie Basted. Hopefully, it'll be coming to a city near you. And thank you, Mark, for coming out to the festival.
Much,
and hopefully, you'll be able to enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Will do. Thank you.
Excellent. Welcome to the 2014 Gwinnett Center International Film Festival. I am here with Andy Daniel, who is one of the greatest makeup artists in the world. Well, at least Georgia, that little world there.
Yeah. Nice to be here. Thank you for inviting us. Thank you for letting me do my panels, workshops today.
Well, I'm glad you were able to come back again for the second year and support us by doing your makeup classes or workshops and showing people how you can do makeup inexpensively and creatively and gory as well.
Mm-hmm. Not all FX is gory, though. We have to.
But it is the more fun.
It is definitely more fun, especially the more bloodier, the better.
So tell me, what are you working on right now? Because you're always working on something, but I want to know what you're working on right now.
I know. Well, I'm actually on mini projects right now. As you know, there's mini shooting in Georgia.
Yep.
One I can't talk about, so we'll ignore that one. One local project is AVM, we call it. It's the Atlanta vampire movie. I think several people that are here today
Yes.
are working on that, like Bruce Downs and I think Zombie and
Stan the Zombie?
Stan the Zombie. I know there were a few more that were here that are on. It's a big project. It's kind of a sequel to Ace the Zombie,
Which was here last year.
Yes, which was just in theaters. It might actually still be at one or two of them. I don't know. I think it was only running at one or two. So it's kind of a sequel. I play the anchor. I play Carrie Ann DeBeers. It's a comedy. It's a great film. We have a lot of fun on that set. But there are, being a vampire movie, long night shoots, as you know, because I worked on a vampire movie with you. We did History of the Vampire together, and those were...
Which will come out next year at this film festival. We're working on it right now, finally.
Finally. I was one of the producers of that, and we had a lot of fun. I think I did some acting in that, as well as Ace, one of my business partners for 9Cop FX. I also have changed the name of my company, which is TFP Productions. Changed that to a Heart and Soul production.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, because TFP in our business means other things as well, because I do modeling and acting, and so it was just getting too confusing. I hate changing the name though, because it was named after my 3 kids, Taylor Foster Parker, TFP, but I had to. I think it's better just to go with a heart and soul production because my heart and soul is in this business.
It is.
And that's where the name came from.
I mean, Andi, you're one of the hardest working women that I've met in this business, especially in the indie field, whether it's in modeling, whether it's acting, whether it's doing makeup, special effects makeup, where you can just simply go there and do a casting for a film, which you did for my film.
Yeah, and the music video.
Yes,
Yep.
and the music video as well. So you've done a lot.
Yeah.
Which aspect do you enjoy the most?
Well, I got started in acting. Acting and modeling. I think my first thing was like some Baby Johnson's baby shampoo commercial or something when I was a little kid. I don't know. It was a long time ago.
Oh,
and I went on to get a degree in film and a minor in theater. I do dance. So I kind of went the creative route in college. And I would always wander over to the makeup trailers and the makeup department to kind of look and see. FX has always been the fun part. You know, that's what I've always liked. And there's not, when I started, there were hardly any women in it. So being one of the few women's now, it's all over YouTube, it's all over Pinterest. It's, you know, it's a lot easier. So there's a lot of people coming in. I interned with Toby Sells, who's amazing. That's actually how I met you.
Yep.
On a film, Creatures of the Night.
Creatures of the Night, yep.
Yeah, so that was a long time ago.
many moons.
Yeah, so that was when I was interning with Toby, who's awesome. He's an amazing, just saw him at GooCon, so he's doing great. But so that's my main project. I'm on the Vampire right now, this weekend. I have to go back to set 30 minutes ago.
Well, I won't keep you too long, but I do want to know, is there any personal project of your own that's coming up that you're working on?
Yes.
I know your company does your own projects as well.
Well, yes. I'm with Next Step Films. We actually just did a short, I guess you would call it a mockumentary, and it's called Studs. And it was about a condition that ex-male models suffer from. And they can't sit right. They have to always pose. And we go through it's a short, goes through the clearing up of the disorder and the things that can happen. Takes you to the rehab center, shows you some of the ex-models in rehab. It's funny. We also are in pre-production for The Race, which we've been in pre-production for 2 years now.
Oh, okay.
We had to get a really big green screen because we have to have 20 men in front of the green screen at one time. We need a really big one. Also, I'm in Test Group, which is another zombie film, of course, because we're in Georgia.
We're in Georgia.
I actually play a part in that. I play one of the moms. I can't even, Mary, my character's name is Mary. Not really supposed to talk a lot about that one either, but they're in pre-production right now, as well as Atlanta Vampire movie is already in production. And then I have several we're doing some sketches, some short like a sketch put together with my company. And some other stuff. There's Netherworld's in pre-production right
around
now.
the corner.
Yeah, this will be my 10th or 11th year there. So I'm old school there. So we're gearing up this year. We're doing Spliced downstairs. It's kind of like The Thing, Take Off The Thing, which is a classic, of course.
Yes, that should scare the bejesus out of everyone.
And then upstairs is Witches, and I do play one of the witches.
Okay.
So that's a big project, as well as several photo shoots that we're gearing up for. I'm going to be doing an ogre photo shoot and some old black and white noir detective photo shoots.
I'll be looking forward to some of those.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. I've never done those before. But so always staying busy, always being the gerbil on the wheel at the Atlanta film business. But Atlanta's doing amazing now. I'm looking forward to Jacoby, which I know is a sponsor actually of the Gwinnett Film Festival. I saw that on the poster. I'm kind of excited because their studio's, getting built in production.
We're looking forward to that.
Oh yeah, so we're really excited about that. It's gonna be amazing for the Gwinnett, area and Georgia. I mean, the Georgia film industry. GPP's excited about that. So.
Well, I won't keep you much longer because she's got to get back to set to make some more monsters or
make
actually
fangs.
be one.
Being a fangsmith today.
But I really do appreciate you coming out for the last 2 years, and especially this year, because I know that your workshops are very popular, both physically here, but online as well, because yours is some of the most watched from last year.
Oh,
so
that's good to
we're
know.
always happy to have you here because for some reason people love to see monsters get made or get
Of
made up as
course.
monsters. So of course you're going to be
course.
popular.
Yeah.
So yes, I am looking forward to your next couple films, and don't forget to send them to me because I'd
We
love
will.
to have your next film here.
Absolutely. We're really excited, and thank you again for letting me be here. I will be back next year unless I'm on set again, but I'll try to work it into the schedule.
Okay. Well, thank you very
So
much.
absolutely.
Hello and welcome to the Gwinnett Center International Film Festival 2014, and I'm here with Stan Bowman, who played in the movie Ace the Zombie, which we screened last year. All right, so tell me a little bit about what your character was in Ace the Zombie.
Well, I originally came on as an extra to play a zombie, and they had met me at Dragon Con convention here in Atlanta
That's
in my zombie outfit. And when I showed up on set at YDC, they didn't know who I was without the makeup on, so they actually cast me as a doctor. And then I came back as a zombie. I got bit, turned into a zombie, got to attack people, so it was fun.
Okay, did Andy do your makeup or Ace or any of those?
No, I do my own makeup.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Excellent.
I have a character called Stan the Zombie.
Okay.
I actually got trademarked recently with the federal government, and we came up with a comic book in May to coin my character, to brand it. Came up with the name about 4 years ago. So I do the makeup the same way every time, so they asked me to do my makeup. But I've worked with Andy on several projects. We did a infomercial type kind of commercial for MARTA. It was called Bikes on a Bus, so easy to even a zombie can do it. So I was a zombie, I was a bike riding zombie.
Oh, wow, that had to
And,
be
and then Andy did the makeup of the other individuals, but I do my own. I have my own patented makeup.
Huh. So, tell me a little bit about I didn't know you had a comic book on your character, so tell me a little bit about Stan the Zombie comic.
Okay, well, we came up with the idea. Actually, me and a writer, Zach Vado, we were working on a script for Stan the Zombie, the movie. We actually got that registered with the Screenwriters Guild and everything. And one of the producers interested in producing the movie wanted us to come out with a comic book to add a little more legitimacy to the character, to add some cannon fodder to getting funding for the movie. So the comic book is actually part of the script. We took out of the script to make the comic book for Free Comic Book Day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, to kind of get the name out there, and so I'm not just this guy walking around conventions. And,
In a costume.
yeah.
Horror conventions would be perfect for. You go around in your Stan the Zombie outfit and give away your free comic book.
Yeah, well, we did on Free Comic Book Day. We have some that we had left over from that, and I have taken them to conventions, but I don't give them away. we kind of try to recover some of the publishing costs. But
I can imagine.
For $5, I'll personally sign them and everything,
Okay.
and put it in a nice little plastic case with a little backboard on it.
Okay, nice. So, you mentioned the movie of Stan the Zombie. How's that coming along, or is it progressing? Are you?
Well, we're not quite in pre-production. We've made some adjustments to the script. The writer, there was like some characters we had to push a little bit, so we kind of like adjusted that. And right now he's adjusting the script for the comic book. Just like you see on The Walking Dead, the TV show doesn't necessarily follow the comic book, you know, the graphic novel, The Walking Dead. So he's making adjustments to it right now for it to work better. But we're in negotiation right now with another producer and see if we can, you know, get funding. Of course, they want to see the script and the synopsis and see if it's something that they want to invest in. See if they, you know, find it viable to spend the money to produce.
Well, since George is huge on zombies, and we had several zombie films last year, we only have one this year. Hopefully you'll get that done, and then we can screen it here in the future.
Yeah. Well, we have a little twist on it. It's not really in the same line of The Walking Dead, like a zombie apocalypse. It's more of, you know, I have a lot of young female fans, so I didn't want to disenfranchise them. So we're trying to keep it at a PG-13. We're not going to go for the max gore effect. We're going more for, there'll be implied gore, but we're going more for the plot.
Okay.
Some people actually who have read the synopsis say, hey, that's the Dexter of zombies.
The Dexter of zombies. Okay.
Yeah, and I've never seen Dexter, so I don't know what they're talking about.
Okay. I was thinking more of something like Warm Bodies, something that's more for the younger crowd with not a whole bunch of gore in there, something like that.
Yeah, well, Warm Bodies was more, well, we used to call it the Twilight, or we call it the Twilight of zombie movies. It's
The
more of a
young
love
adult, yes.
story.
No love story in there, just a zombie.
No, yeah, it's more of a, you know, the lead character, the female, she's Patricia. She's supposed to be 15 years old. She's kind of a geek girl, kind of not too sociable and everything. she finds me. I become like her pet. I can't give the whole storyline away.
No, don't give it
but,
away. Don't give it away.
But so I become like her friend. So there's there's a young boy who has an interest in her, but we're talking 15. We're not talking, adult stuff. We're talking puppy love in there, and he knows that she's got this secret, which is me, her pet zombie.
The pet zombie. Okay, well that sounds very interesting. I mean, unfortunately I'm a great big zombie lover and I don't watch anything with zombies. That's why I saw Ace the Zombie and I immediately, as soon as Andy told me about the movie, I said, Andy, you have to give me this movie and put it in here. So.
Oh yeah, when they discovered me, see, I've been doing zombie since I was a teenager. I was a big George Romero fan. Yep. The original Night of the Living Dead, then Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, right? Anytime those came out. I like to say I was zombie when zombie wasn't cool. And I had been doing this way before The Walking Dead. Some people think, well, because of The Walking Dead, because, ride the popularity.
Yeah.
But what The Walking Dead did for the zombie genre was huge. Zombie movies, outside George Romero, though, George Romero was like probably the most, biggest budgeted zombie movies. Most zombie movies were B-rated, C-rated. There wasn't a lot of companies willing, or investors willing to throw money into a zombie movie.
Yeah.
And then Walking Dead, in fact, I think if Walking Dead hadn't come out, World War Z wouldn't have had such a high budget.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have had Brad Pitt in it. It would have been just some other
small little B movie.
Netflix zombie movie.
Unfortunately, I agree with you on that one. Walking Dead has changed the landscape for the zombie film, and now you see them everywhere.
Yeah, now all of a sudden everybody, how I call them fair weather. Yeah, now all of a sudden everybody's a zombie fan. And that's like, I've been zombie fan for forever. And science fiction and horror industry in general.
No, I agree with you. I'm a huge zombie fan myself. I'm a old school Romero fan. And ask anyone who's ever been on set with me like Andy, I have to have one of my Romero shirts on when I'm filming. It's inspiration.
Oh yeah, I met Andy actually on set of Ace the Zombie. Right? And actually we're in a movie it's in production right now called Atlanta Vampire Movie. And she actually plays my wife.
Oh wow.
In the movie. I play a character called Dr. Acula. Put the two together, Dracula. Right? It's a comedy.
She's barely just giving me a hint of it. Now I get a little bit more now. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, in fact, I think it's next week that I have to be on set. And then doing another zombie movie called Test Group. And then I'm in a pilot TV series called Changing Destiny where I play a mental patient.
Huh, okay, so you're keeping busy.
Trying to, yeah. Well, I've been working with Kristen Shaw. She's my acting coach. I've been working with her for the last couple of years. To get more, I've been doing zombie for so long, and I don't need training on that. In fact, I could probably teach the zombie school, but I wanted to get more into other forms, speaking roles, acting. Back in 2012, I was asked to be on a web series called X-Men, Uncanny X-Men.
Oh,
right?
Okay, yeah.
And they hired me to play Mastermind's Illusion. But it was after I did that I was like, you know what, I could really get into this. And a friend of mine, Mark Drum, who played Ace in Ace the Zombie, referred my coach, Kristen Shaw, to me for training. Actors like athletes, we've got to stay in shape.
Yeah.
And you can't, you never get to a point where it's like, okay, I know everything about acting. Now I can just sit back, make movies and make fun. You're constantly learning your tool, your craft. It's like an athlete. If you don't work out, it's going to show on camera, on set.
Okay. I was about to say, any other words you'd like to say about any of your projects, or are you enjoying the film festival, by the way? Since you don't actually have a film here, you're coming here to enjoy it, correct?
Correct. I came in here, meet with some friends, Andy, who's here, Bruce Downs, who's director / producer, I believe, with the Atlanta Vampire Movie. But just to kind of connect with some friends, brought some copies of my resume and see if I can make any new networking connections.
Okay.
But I was here last year, but I wasn't here. But my movie was here. No,
yes.
The movie that I'm in is here. So they will probably, because it's a short film, they're going to show it around festivals similar to this.
Yeah, well, definitely tell them to send me a copy, send my way. Like Andy sent Ace to me, Without her, it would have never came across to me. So we got to thank Andy.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Andy.
Yeah, so I'm sure AJ Caruso is the one who directed Z1412.
Okay.
I actually played the lead zombie. Back to zombie again. I played the lead zombie in that. And,
I played one myself, so I'm just like you. I haven't played one as often as you have, but I did one in a fan film called Night of the Hungry Dead.
Ah.
So, yes.
Did you ever see the parody for Night of the Living Dead called Night of the Living Bread?
Yes, I have.
Where the bread's throwing themselves.
That's the most famous one because you can find that everywhere. But yes, now it's like everywhere because of the zombie movies. So.
Night of the Living Bread.
Yeah.
I'll let them know. I mean, really look forward to it. I can show you later on the trailer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they recently came out with a short trailer because he did the sound. This is his actual first time at directing. He was a sound. He wrote music scores for movies.
Oh, wow.
And now he's giving a shot at actually directing. And they were down in New Orleans for premiere of the movie he did the sound for. So he quickly put together a trailer so he would have something to show down there on that little film festival that they had down in New Orleans.
Nice. I'd love to go to New Orleans. New Orleans.
New Orleans.
New Orleans. Well, thank you so much for coming
You're welcome.
out. And hopefully you'll enjoy more of the films. And next year I'll see you back here with a new film.
Oh, hopefully. All right.
This is the writers' workshop. We're going to have we have some very talented people here. We want to thank them for giving their Saturday afternoon for us. The first thing we're going to do is starting from left to right and having them introduce themselves and tell them a little bit about the work they're doing.
Okay, Stephen Sherwood. I run a bi-weekly screenwriting workshop in Roswell called the Blank Page Screenwriters Workshop. Last year I had 3 of my shorts were shown in retrospective, and I'm currently working on lots of others.
All right. I'm Will, and I have Up and Atom Productions as well as work in the local industry. So,
I'm Zach, and I don't have a production company. I write when I'm not working at Apple, and that's my life.
I'm Kat, and I do write for a living, but mostly other people's stuff, not my own. I also have been a screener at an Academy Award-winning film festival for the last 15 years, so I've seen about 5,000 shorts, and I have a kind of unique perspective based on that.
I'm Mark Datuin. I'm the writer and director of Basted, and I own Mad Resilience Films, and we've produced a number of shorts and theater productions.
I didn't really prepare a question, but I guess my first question is my knowledge is of feature film writing, feature-length screenplay. So I guess if somebody could talk about, is there a standard, is there a norm, length-wise, page-wise, time-wise, for the short film? Is it open to interpretation? What is the cutoff? Those type things.
anybody want to take that?
Well, I know from...
I'll take it just because
ahead.
it depends on the festival. You will see most festivals have 45 minutes to 42 minutes. There's some festivals that will have a 20-minute limit. I can tell you, as a programmer, our preferred length is around 12 minutes because it allows us to show a lot of shorts. I find, too, that most of the longer shorts need to be edited. But that's not always the case. I've seen 42-minute shorts that were fabulous, that filled their time well. But that's the biggest difference.
Yeah, I actually ran into the same thing talking to the guys that run the Atlanta Film Festival, and I had a short in Dragon Con. And most of my shorts, it was weird, my first short was 25 minutes and 46 seconds. My last short was 25 minutes and 42 seconds. And there was no plan to do that, it's just the way it came out. But they're saying, look, if you have a 25-minute short, then I have to decide, is that worth 2 shorts at 12 minutes? But, you can't, I don't let that affect me because I've got to write the story that I've got to write. But I think anything over 40 minutes, you get into weird territory.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Was just from a writing standpoint, let the story be what it is. Honestly, you would only want to dial it back in page number if you don't have the resources to make something that is like 40 minutes long, which most people don't. So you would want to go for like 10, 15 minutes. I know Cannes doesn't accept shorts that are like over 14 minutes, which for me, that's like, no, I gotta bust out of that. But that's just me though. I will go long.
And if I ever, I write a lot as well, so if I write and it ends up being longer than short film status, then it gets upgraded to the next level. And Regina, if you take a minute, since you were a little late getting here, and I apologize, I think we started right on time. Will you introduce yourself to the group?
Sure. Sorry, everybody, that I'm late. I got stuck in traffic.
In Atlanta?
But, yeah.
No.
I'm Regina Partee, director, writer, and producer. I am a graduate of Georgia State University, New York Film Academy, and Full Sail University, more recently with a master's in creative writing. Let me see, what else? That's about it.
Okay. And now, I'm sorry, were you guys done feedbacking on that answer, or question? I'm sorry. Everybody answer?
Well, I have edited down my own shorts because that sounds funny, but.
Yeah, I won't ever edit something now. If it's going to be longer than short, I just go
Well, I
on
mean, the final product.
Oh, yeah.
Because I write it, which means I want to direct it, I want to edit it. And I had a 12-minute short that I edited down to 9 minutes because it was supposed to be comedy, and you can't, if it's lagging, you got to cut it.
Yep. Oh, well, yeah. Anybody else have other questions?
What's, I guess for the younger crowd, what's the biggest difficulty or the biggest roadblock you run into, especially kind of starting out your own, or branching out and making more serious, committed films rather than just doing it for a hobby or something like that?
I'm still working on that, so.
The most challenging thing, money would be the most challenging thing, just because with shorts, I believe that everyone in this room has the understanding that you really only make a short, not necessarily only make a short, but wanting to start out, if you want a career in film, like kind of break into the industry, is to make a short. Plenty of people have done it. A lot of people as student films like Martin Scorsese, Paul Thomas Anderson, those kinds of people, and that then gets their foot in the door at Sundance or wherever. And the most difficult thing is getting money to get that to happen. So you have to usually work the grind for a while, pocket some cash, and then reinvest it into yourself, that kind of thing. That's, for me, just because on the normal side of life, I'm not a professional writer. Like, I don't get paid to write. I may win money in something, but that's not the same thing as somebody coming to me like, hey, I have a writing job for you, blah, blah, blah. And so for me, it's waking up and doing the 9 to 5 to then do my passion, that kind of thing. That, for me, is the most difficult, challenging thing because some days it's like I want to kill myself just because I would much rather be writing. And other days I'm just like, hey, every day is $1 in the bank, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I agree. For me, the biggest challenge is limiting my writing to what I know I can film. Basically, what I've been doing is writing and directing my own projects as passion projects, and basically I've only knowing what settings I can have, what kind of equipment, I'm limiting my writing based on that up until this point. So every project I find I am growing with every project, and but up to this point that has been the biggest challenge.
Yeah, I would say the same thing that everybody else has said. It's just the biggest challenge for me, I know, is for sure money, because there's not a huge market for short films. There is a market, but not a huge market for short films. So any investors that you have may have to understand that you may not recoup that money, like you would for a feature film. But it's almost like they just have to almost believe in you really to go from short to feature and stick with you through the process. But that's the biggest challenge is the money.
Typical structure in a short film?
Well, to me, a story is a story. You have to have a beginning, middle, and end. I hate movies that credits shouldn't be a surprise. If you're watching a movie and it's black and there are credits and you don't know what happened, and I say that too often, but I mean, the whole thing we get is why even do shorts in the first place? Why do a short? You have people, I don't want to do a short, I want to do a feature. Well, it's a craft like any other. How do you get to make, a huge building without starting with something smaller. You have to have proved that you know what you're doing. And that's what short films are for, also for IMDb, because that's the new resume, like it or not. And the first thing I do when I meet somebody in this business is look them up on IMDb. And if they have no credits, then they have severely limited, credibility. I didn't have any credits. 4 years ago on IMDb, I have 50-something now. A lot of that is from doing your own short films, making sure they're submitted to the festivals, but that gives you the credibility to go in front of investors when you are trying to get money for your features. Anybody else have a take on that?
I actually was kind of surprised that somebody came and asked me to direct something for them just because I have my one single little thing on IMDb, but it still was enough that he said, well, you know what? This is a passion piece. Let's do it anyway and give him a chance. And they came to me. So IMDb, no matter how many of you say it's not, it is a big deal.
Final draft, that's the standard.
Yeah, final.
Or Celtics, it's free.
Celtics, yeah, man.
It's free.
Yeah, Celtics is free.
Celtics has gotten weird. They used to be simple. Now they want you in the cloud. And
Whatever you want to use, but Celtics is free, so I
Just
trust
don't-
that first.
just don't use
You
Word.
can get a template from Microsoft Word. I mean, that's, honestly, you can't say it, but you can get one.
Yes.
The main problem with going outside of final draft is pagination can change. Because I've had people bring us scripts in Word, and they turn out to be much longer when they actually formatted them correctly. So, but Celtics will get you started, it's fine.
Going off of your question, just because I had something to say about that, sorry to backtrack. With story structure, structuring shorts, I've done a lot of student filmmaking contests like Campus Movie Fest. I don't know if anybody here's heard of that. They make you do a movie that's only 5 minutes or less, and that knocks your head against the wall because you're like, my story is worth 10 minutes, and you have to do it in 5. And so what I found out is with shorts, especially like Mark was saying, if you go out of your way to think about the resources you have and write something based on those, which is all you do when it comes to student filmmaking because you're just going off of what you have in your pocket, is that basically, I don't know, don't bite off more than you can chew with the story. Keep it simple, but the thing is the line that you walk when it comes to 5 minutes or less is avoiding being trite or cliche. And so if you go back and just watch short films from Martin Scorsese, student films and stuff like that, you find that they are often crazier films than what they've made that you know about, like Taxi Driver or whatever. They're busting some sort of boundary because as a short film you have to do that. You have to differentiate from just the normal trite kind of stuff that you see. Because you find websites like Short of the Week, not that that's not awesome, but 90% of that is going to hit the same kind of note. Something in your pocket, feel good about it at the end of it, that kind of thing. So when it comes to structuring shorts, certainly keep your resources in mind, but at the same time, try and push those boundaries as much as you possibly can, because that's where you're going to get noticed. And that's where your stories are actually going to be different and worth my time. When it comes to, I stumble upon you on the internet, that kind of thing, on your IMDb, and I find your short. If it's 5 minutes, 2 minutes into it, it seems cliche. I don't know.
YouTube has quite a few of them. The Wild Sound they actually do table reads of shorts. That really gives you a good idea of some poor structure as well as good structure, because there's nothing worse than a table read, honestly. And that's another good tip. Get a table read. Have people come over and read your script out loud when you get your draft done, because it makes you cringe and want to climb under the table most of the time, especially on the early drafts.
Well, I'll add on to that because I run, like I said, the blank page screenwriting workshop, and the whole point of that is to give you coverage, because as a writer, if you don't have coverage, we've all seen too many people that have run out and just shot something because they had an idea and they didn't let anybody else read it or give feedback, and usually they're either apologetic or defensive because it turned out terrible. With you come in front of a group like that, we get professional actors to come in and read your lines. You will hear things that you're just not going to get if you can reread it to death. But when you hear people interpret it, especially if they're having trouble understanding what's going on, But that, you know, it's invaluable to get coverage. Yeah, every other Tuesday. It's every other Tuesday, 7 to like 10. It's free. You can go on Facebook, look for Blank Page. But there's also the downtown group. There's one called Screenwriters Anonymous. Not sure. But
I need to join that.
And I just want to piggyback on what they were saying too. And don't be intimidated by a film that's 5 minutes or less. If anybody has been watching the Project Greenlight contest that's coming back up again, those have to be between 1 and 3 minutes. And I mentioned that to someone the other day. I was like, what are you going to say, hi or bye? But I was like, well, I'm not entering it this time, but I had written a 2-minute script, and it had a beginning, a middle, and an end. And that's the main thing. You have to have a middle, beginning, middle, and end, no matter how short. If it's 1 page long, you still need to have a beginning, middle, and end. So don't let that intimidate you, no matter how long or short it is. And to answer the other question, there is a short film that I watched that I still remember to this day. It's like 20 minutes long, I think, and I don't know who made it, but it's called The Watchmaker's Son, and it's brilliant. And I think I keep it on my YouTube page
Is it
just to watch
relatively
it.
recent? Because I think Whitestone Motion Pictures made one.
Yes, I think that is
yeah.
them.
They
Yeah.
are a film company in Beaufort, Georgia, that
Yeah.
you can just go on their website and have fun. Whitestone Motion Pictures, and they are like a boutique-y kind of, I don't know. I don't want to do them injustice. Look them up, pretty much. A short film that I saw, just because most of my experience comes from Campus Movie Fest. If you just go to Campus Movie Fest website and look up the past winners, yeah, you can find trends that people that will go for, or like things that they go for. But there's one called The Strong One that was really, really good. That when I saw it, I'm just like, that is head and shoulders above anything else in this contest, because you get to see some pretty terrible ones. The things I learned the most are from the terrible short films, just because that's, I don't know, the good ones, you sit there and you try and dissect it and be like, what made this thing work? And you'll never be able to figure it out. But the stuff that's terrible, though, it's pretty easy to find out, like bad sound, bad writing, bad acting.
Well, the two biggest areas that short films fell in consistently, first of all, are bad writing, and second is bad sound. It's half your movie. Ask Lucas. Sound is, you can tell things with sound that you don't even need much picture. But consistently, I'm kind of a fixer editor. People will bring me their disasters and try to make sense out of it. And usually they have bad sound throughout. We end up doing ADR, which is automated dialogue replacement, which is something you need to know if you're going to do filmmaking, because at some point you're going to have to do it. It's where the actors come in and you loop the same sentence over and over again, and they say it till they get it right. Because short filmmakers often are on a very low or no budget, and you got to deal with what you got. So
That's why you should always try and write voiceover. That's super easy fix. That's what I just did on my last one. Seriously, it saves you a lot of time. I mean, I'll say, like, when I first started, it was literally like me and, like, let's say him, and that was it. And I'd sit on a tripod and we just acted out. So it's like, it's really just, too many people they need the right camera, they need the right thing, but you don't really need that. Like, you can film it on your cell phone. Like, I think the Galaxy can shoot 4K now, which is ridiculous, but I mean, there's really no excuse not to make what you write. And I think that's the thing, is just keep making it. It's a muscle, so you just got to work it out.
If you're going to clean it up, post-edit.
Yeah.
I have one question, and I'll get to you, Brian. I'm going to ask this, and I ask this in all my panels, but what do you recommend for a writer, and I'm going to use myself because I'm just starting out with writing. What do you recommend for somebody like me who's starting out and does it all on passion, don't want to do it for no money, I want to do it because I love to do it, and what do you guys recommend for me starting out? Start with you, Regina.
Starting with, you mean like in writing? Oh, it's a brand new, okay. I would say my saving grace has always been the Screenwriter's Bible, because that really, I mean, if you don't have the screenwriting format like we were talking about before, and if you have to do it in like Microsoft Word or anything, to get the Screenwriter's Bible, because it tells you exactly how to format everything and how everything is supposed to be written up, so that you won't get knocked out from just that particular thing. And then I would go with, I know everybody thinks this is like really old-fashioned, but I would do Sid Field's Screenwriter. Yeah, Sid Field, yeah, screenwriter for sure, because that just tells you the basic information. Then you can go on to other books like Save the Cat and all that stuff, but I would start with screenwriter, so.
But don't let them inhibit you. I bought
Right.
Save the Cat and threw it away because after 5 chapters in, it's like at page 16, this much happened. At page 18, this much happened. I can't,
Yeah,
I don't
didn't
work
like
that
it.
way.
Yeah, I didn't
You know,
like it too
don't
much.
let anything inhibit your muse. Because the thing is, if you're writing to sell it, it's different. You've got to get used to good habits. It has to be formatted precisely. If you're going to do it yourself, it's different, but still you need to get into good habits. But the main thing is to let your muse, your inspiration, go on the first draft
Yeah.
and just put it all down. Just getting to the end is significant.
The first draft is always going to be crappy, so don't, you know.
And
probably
I'm
second
always
draft,
my
too.
worst critic.
Yeah, I think I could boil that down to 2 words: read screenplays. Just because if you're not familiar with that at all, that's like a blind guy trying to direct a movie. It wouldn't work. I mean, maybe he could do it, I don't know. But yeah, just read screenplays is something that I don't do enough, but I know that when I'm not feeling strong or confident as a writer, I'll go read like my favorite movie, and then I'll go read a movie that I've never heard of, and so I can just see what things work.
Write every day. That would be my 2 words. Write every day. Make time. Find a way to do it. If you write on your lunch hour, if you get up 30 minutes early, write. It doesn't have to be brilliant. That's the difference between having a career as a writer and wanting to be a writer, is actually doing the writing. There's nothing that can take the place of that. Reading screenplays is really important, but it's even more important to write every day.
If you had a question?
Yeah. So one piece of advice that I've heard is to write simple stories, but to have complex characters. And I was just wondering, where do you draw inspiration from your characters, and how do you develop them, and do you have any practical suggestions for that?
I mean, I would say I first start off like I'd base it off somebody in a sense, and just like a little quirk that they might have, you know. And then from there, I'd like flesh it out and build around that. And then, you know, you keep working and working and working, and then you'll eventually, you know, gain like a 3-dimensional character. But they always have like, for me with my characters, they have like one significant trait that, you know, stays through the entire thing, and then from there I build around that. And that's, I mean, kind of how I do it, I guess. I don't know about y'all, but.
For me, I find going on the subway or on the metro, I get a lot of inspiration there. I find that's where you find a lot of human characters, a lot of interesting characters. Just observing the public, I do a lot of people watching, and for me, you know, a lot of the shorts that I've written, I've had these characters in my mind for years, just because it's someone that I may have observed years ago. And I find just going in general, just going to the public, that's where I get a lot of inspiration for characters, complex characters.
I think on a practical level, if I'm just stuck with a character, I will try my best to inject some irony into them, like a fireman who's afraid of fire. Like that inherently needs to be seen. And there's a flaw there, there's a backstory, like the dude obviously was harmed by fire or something like that. There's something dramatic there, there's something to be told. And so a lot of the best characters, I do that as well. I just list out characters that I like from movies, and I try and figure out what it is about them that I like. And most often it's something that like I myself am lacking in, and I like admire about this character, or I see myself in like the same kind of flaw, that kind of thing. Stack the odds against them, I think, is the best way to do that. It's just be like, hey, this guy is going to have no arms or legs, and you know, or whatever, I don't know. And then you put him in a situation, and then it inherently kind of, this is too abstract, but like writes itself to a degree, just because the irony there kind of plays itself out.
Write what scares the crap out of you. That's
Yeah.
how you
That's
write
how I-
about your fears.
And another really good exercise that you can do, they had us do this in one of the schools I went to, is just go to the mall or whatever, and just you're kind of eavesdropping on people, but that was one of the most fun exercises we did. We had to eavesdrop on people and listen to their conversations, and it helped with the dialogue too of the characters. But you got a chance to hear what they're saying and the kind of nuances of the character, and then we had to go backwards and figure out what kind of character they were based on their conversations with each other, and it was all fragmented, just like real conversation. As you know, a lot of times in scripts, you get those conversations that don't really sound real, but if you do that and just listen to how people speak, then you can kind of pick up on character traits and also get better in dialogue writing.
There's a technique I'd been taught from somebody, but you give each character, first of all, you have a little character sheet. So you have a little biography in each character. You give him 4 traits, 3 that are normal, like he's studious, reserved, and intelligent, and then 1 that's outside the box, it's off the wall, like he's got a thing about giraffes. Just something that gives that character an individual, like you're saying, an individual trait that will make them not look like cardboard. And the other thing I've heard from producers is that they should be able to write out or block the names of all the characters, and reading it still be able to tell who's talking. If all of your characters sound alike, then you've got a problem. So they need to have distinctive voices.
Anybody else have any questions?
Okay, so you already mentioned how important actors are and how important it is to have people read your script before you actually go into production and before you finalize it and everything like that. So where do you get good actors? And I've heard some people say you should always get SAG actors, and I've heard other people say no, you should look elsewhere. That's a waste of money. But what are your thoughts on finding good actors?
Good actors, I exhaust the website Love to Act. It's just an Atlanta base. I remember more than Atlanta, but I'll usually find people there, and I can tell pretty quickly if they're bad or not by looking at their resume or whatever. Also, finding someone that's equally as desperate as you are is a really key thing, just because you can tell like somebody's a good actor, but they're stuck in really crappy movies. So you bring them a decent script, and they're like, oh yeah, I'll do this for free. And then usually they know people who know people. It's all the best actors I've worked with have come from networking. Just be like, yeah, I knew this guy, which I know if you're like breaking into it, I know no one. What am I gonna do? A website like Love to Act is perfect, just because you can find people who've done a lot of stuff.
Also networking. I mean, that's one of the things we do with Blank Page. We have professional actors come in, and they need that IMDb credit as much or more than you do. So I've shot all 3 of my shorts for the cost of feeding casting crew.
IMDb Pro is doing casting now, too. They have a casting function.
I got an actor once off of LinkedIn, so it seems like they're everywhere, but you just have to, like they're saying, networking and just going out on the internet. And
maybe not Craigslist, though.
Yeah, maybe not Craigslist.
Also, I've noticed going to events like this, and I didn't find you guys until last year, but also Dragon Con, and going to things outside the norm, like Dragon Con. I won't say that that's outside the norm for me 17 years ago, but it might have been. But Dragon Con, go to conventions, go to any, put yourself out there on Facebook. When I put my group Facebook up, I had 175 hits in the first day, which really surprised me, because I don't know if it's because I'm sci-fi based or whatever, but it just floored. And that's right, you really do have to get out there and network and make friends, because if you don't, you'll just stagnate.
Other events like Get Connected and then the Atlanta Film Meetup Group, there's several networking events around that you can meet actors.
Basically, there's actors everywhere. All right.
And I've acted in things. It's not great, but I don't know. If I'm writing it, I know the story better than anyone else. And usually whoever I'm working with is pretty close to me. They're going to be patient with me, even if I suck.
Well, another thing that, just to go outside the realm people normally think about, if you go to guys that are men or women that run acting classes, they will often let you sit in back and just watch to audit. And then you get to see them actually practicing their art and figure out if they're worth talking to.
Creative Studios of Atlanta always has acting classes too. I think they're here as a vendor this year too, so try to connect with, I think it's Ken Feinberg, if you can, yeah.
I know you guys all say you're writers. How many of you guys actually act? I know Zach said he kind of does.
Yeah, I was in the Cure last night. It's the first time I saw it in 3 years.
Yeah, I don't necessarily like to act. It's cool,
Well, the thing is, you know you're going to be there, so
You'll be there anyway, so you might as well be filming it.
it's one less actor to worry about.
Yes, ma'am. Let me bring that to you.
How important is it, do you think, to have an education or a degree in writing?
Well, I guess I can answer that one too. Well, it depends what you want to do. I've got an extensive education in writing, but I don't think it's really necessary. It was good for me because I learned stuff that was outside of my box. But if you are just always, when I first started out though, I was just seeking stuff for myself anyway. But I just wanted a degree behind my name so that people would take me more seriously. But you really don't need a degree to write. You can, there's so much information on the internet now that you really don't need that.
I'm a UCLA grad, and I can tell you that the people I went to school with have been very instrumental in my career. So that's the plus. If you can go to a school that does turn out filmmakers, you've got that built-in network.
I think that's one of the things they said NYU had like the highest degree of graduates making big films, but it's networking.
NYU, UCLA, USC. There's a couple other programs up and coming right now.
Yeah, I think if you really look at it, both paths have their advantages. You have the degree, you have the clout, you have the connections right off the bat, like people that you're with. We also have debt. I'm allergic to debt, so I'm not going to do that. But then you have the person who's just going to work from the bottom up. I write on the side and I make a giant stack of things and just hope for that one moment. Your break-in is going to be a break-in where you're going to have a connection made or something like that. Stanley Kubrick never went to college.
Tarantino didn't graduate high school.
Yeah. So, there are people that go both ways. And then Scorsese is like a doctor in film history. So, depends what you want, honestly.
Well, I think it's also a talent. It's like singing. If you have the innate ability to tell a story, then you can just capitalize that. But if you're tone deaf, there's an equivalent of that. If you can't tell a story to save your life, then you shouldn't be trying to do that. But if you have the ability to keep someone captivated with a story, that's an experiment you could try, is to come up with a story idea and tell someone for 5 minutes. If you hold their attention.
And it's almost like fine-tuning a skill, too. Because like I said, I kind of taught myself, and everybody had always said that my scripts were really good and stuff, too. But then when I went to school, then I noticed how when I read my old stuff, and I'm like, I didn't see what anybody saw in this, because I'm fine-tuned to what I need to be doing. Like everybody was saying, it's just really how if you want to have debt, then you can go to school and you get networking and all that kind of stuff built into it. But if you don't, then you can just, you can still network though, like things like this and everything. Screenwriter groups are good, reading scripts are good and stuff too, like that.
Like Kat was saying, you have to write. I can't tell you how many people we have that I'm going to finish it. And they just, years later, well, I'm still working. It's like, dude, just throw the blinders away, get to the end. That's a huge achievement in itself, and that will congratulate yourself that you finished it. I've got one script that's 260 pages, for God's sakes. Just finishing that, I don't ever get produced, but it was, finishing that was an effort. And once you've gotten to the end, the hard thing I find, maybe the other artists can, I have a hard time going back and doing the rewrites. What about you guys?
I don't know. I love rewriting. I don't know what it is, because the first thing is so crappy to me. But I love the getting it down is the hardest. Getting down the first time is the hardest part, but rewriting is the fun part. That when I get into it, I'm probably weird like that though. So.
Yeah.
So I know for me, when I was in school, my motivation to get stuff done, and I went to school for fashion merchandising, so not entirely related to this, but in order to get my projects done, it was nice to have a deadline. I know outside of school that's difficult, so what would your prime motivation be for finishing something?
I'll say a deadline. Like when I did my first feature, the biggest thing I did that consistently made me stay on track was go, okay, by like June 3rd, like that's when I'm starting to shoot. So dear God, hopefully everything's in order for that. That's like honestly the biggest thing, because if you don't set a deadline, then you'll keep pushing it, because there's always a reason not to do it. I mean, it's hard. Like, all this stuff is hard. But writing, I mean, writing's great because only you have to be there. It's easy for that. You know, once you get in production, then you got a ton of, like, you know, all these people bailing and all that stuff. But like with writing, yeah, it's just one of those things. If you go, okay, you know, 12 to 3 on Saturday every day, you know, then you'll do it. You'll get it done. It'll happen. So, yeah, a deadline, I guess, would be the theme of that. Yeah.
Write the end first. I mean, it does help you because everything comes to the end. The whole thing goes to the end. You've got to back your way out a lot of times, especially if you come up with a new ending than what you outlined to begin with. So if you write the end first, a lot of times it's a little easier to go backwards.
Well, I would also use, you're talking about festivals. If you have a festival you want to be in, that's a hard date.
Right.
And the thing with the festivals, almost all of them are the same. They have 4 entries, and it gets more expensive as you get later. So scheduling that, yeah, you want to try to get in.
I also use accountability partners because I found that deadlines didn't really work, except for those hard deadlines, didn't really work well for me. Because I would set a deadline and I would be like, oh yeah, I'll do it later or whatever. But then that's where my networking for my school, you know, old schoolmates and stuff came in, because we still keep in touch, and then we're like accountability partners. So if I'm not doing it, then they're on me. They're like, oh, you were supposed to have 10 pages by, blah, you know, and I don't want to hear that. So therefore, you know, I'm sticking to what I'm supposed to be doing just by having accountability partners. So you can get the same thing like with screenwriters group, like the blank page and things like that.
So elaborating a little bit more on what you guys are talking about, when do you actually call it quits? Like, how many drafts do you make until you're like, all right, this is either I'm going to, you know, this is done, or it's just a bust and I'm going to do another story?
It's never done. It seems like,
Yeah.
well, it's sort of always, you can tell when you're finished, you know, you'll get to that point where you'll be able to tell, okay, I'm not going to touch it anymore, but you're always going to see some little thing, but then you just have to know when to say, okay, I'm not going to do anything else on it.
Yeah, when it comes to like just in the ideation to the fade out of the screenplay, how many hours I waste just trying to get it to work. You know, if I waste a good month, I will drop it. But some of my best ideas, I've literally written like a draft of something, or like 20 pages of it, because that's about as far as I get before I quit. I will go back to that later on. Like, it's still on my shelf. It's still something something was in it that interested me, and so I can go back to that and pick it up and maybe combine it with something else. A lot of the really cool stuff comes from just having an old idea and having a new idea and being like, oh wait, these kind of work together. They have the same theme. So when it comes to calling it quits, whenever you're not moving forward, and that either looks like page count or anything else really, because I've told myself I'm gonna have a screenplay done in July, and that screenplay sits with like 15 pages. I should probably drop that idea if I can't crank it out that fast. So I don't know, because you gotta write every day, and if you sit down and you write like a page a day, it's something, but the story's kind of eking out at that point. You might want to change gears, write something a little less serious or whatever, because some ideas you just care way too much about. I have that bullshit idea that I like, that I just go to, that I'm like, I don't care anything about this idea. I'm just gonna write it, and if it's terrible, it's terrible. And then I'll go back to the idea I love, and I'm like, oh, I don't care about this, I'm gonna write it, and so, I don't know, I cycle.
The guideline I use is, yeah, you could write it forever, and it's just a matter of, if you were going to sell this to someone, is this good enough that you feel comfortable putting it in front of them? You know, if you're not at that point, then that means you've got more work to do. Even if you get at that point, you're probably going to do it again anyway, because we all learn. Once you stop learning, you die.
Right. I mean, I got a question, actually. I mean, I know how I do it, but I want to see what y'all say. Specifically for like a longer formatted, you know, short or whatever, like if it's like 45 minutes, do you guys just bust it out straight? Like, do you have your idea, or do you like outline it first, you know, and break it up into sections and then go through it? Take it away.
I just bust it out. Try my best. It's that crappy first draft that you're like, to get all the crappy stuff out of my system, and then usually by the end of that I'll have a theme that I can then go attach everything else to. Be like, all right, so this is off kilter, and it eventually lines up to be whatever it is, and hopefully in that I can shave off some page count or whatever. I don't know. I'm an all-out and then forget about it kind of guy.
For me, one of my first shorts I wrote was, it ended up being a 40-minute film, and for me, what I did is, it was an ensemble piece, so what I did was I did outlines for every character, how do they connect, and so basically, I did outlines, I didn't just do it all in one shot, they all had their own stories, and then I wanted to see how do all these individual 6 stories connect with each other, and so that's how I approached that one.
I outline. I'm an outline person. I've written one feature straight through. I know I used it as an outline because I just had to get the idea out of my head. It was just coming fast and furious, and I hope I never do that again. It's chaotic.
Yeah, I'm an outline person too. Well, for short films, I noticed that I just write those out. Depends on how long they are. But for features, for sure, I have to outline it.
Well, I think it's everybody, that's the other thing. No one can tell you how to write because it's you.
That's true.
You have to write your method. My method is to mull on it for weeks, and I'll sit down and write 25, 30 pages in a day. I've written shorts in 3 or 4 hours. That doesn't mean I got that idea then. It means I've been thinking about it forever. The one that was 260 pages, I had to stop in the middle and write an outline because I had no idea where it was going. The ending was a surprise to me. But basically, you got to do what works for you. If it doesn't work, then stop doing it. So.
I can tell you why I outline. I outline because it's easier to get rid of stuff that's not working when it's in outline form than when I go to it and I've already got this scene in my head and I love this scene or I love this dialogue or I love this character. So I've learned that to keep myself from doing that, outlining is a better choice because I spot it right away. And I go, okay, that doesn't work. I'm getting rid of it before I've invested in it.
Well, one of the things we asked for at the writers group, and not everybody agrees with it, we want a log line and a tag line, or at least a log line. And one of the leading guys that teach this theory is that if you can't come up with a log line, you don't know what you're writing. Now, I don't always, to be honest, have a log line before I even finish the thing. But what about you guys? Do you have a log line to start, or you wait?
I usually don't have a log line right away. I usually come up, amazingly, I usually come up with a title first, and that's always weird, but yeah, I usually don't do a log line.
So for the people that don't know, a log line is the 1 or 2 sentences that describe the movie like you'd see in TV Guide.
Yeah.
I sometimes think of a title, and that really, what you're doing there is you're thinking of a clever way to say the theme. Like No Country for Old Men. That's the theme of that movie. I don't know, I've written a short that could go by that title. So yeah, it really depends. I don't know, yeah.
I usually have a log line, but after several drafts, that log line ends up being something completely different. But I find having a log line is a good starting point. At least you know what kind of story you want to tell, and if it changes, then so be it.
A log line helps you drill down the simplicity of your idea, and that's the key. The simplicity of your idea is what's so important, especially if you want to try to sell something to Hollywood one day, because you've got to be able to walk in and get somebody to put millions of dollars behind an idea, and it has to be succinct that they immediately get what that movie is in their head.
Yeah, I think that's what they also, like high concept.
It's not, well, everything in Hollywood is high concept
Right.
to some degree, but they do some stuff that's not as much high concept based on the simplicity of the idea. I mean, that's, True Detective got sold that way.
Yeah, I think going back to what I said earlier, irony within your log line is good. A fireman who's afraid of fire. Yeah, I'm going to watch that movie, hopefully, if the trailer's good. Yeah, and that just goes for, like I said, across this board for storytelling in general. That irony it's that hook. It's that thing that I have to see how this plays out. That's going to get people in the seat, and it's going to get someone like a producer to be like, "Oh, okay, I see what you're envisioning there," because it's just the same. It's all about demographics.
We had something at our last meeting where there was a coincidence in a screenplay. And one of them brought up, I said, it's supposed to be a rule, there can only be one coincidence per movie, and it has to make the situation worse for your protagonist.
Y'all were talking about the beginning, middle, the end. That obviously applies for anything, but or any story you're trying to tell. But movies are normally 3 acts. Shows are anywhere from 4 to 6, depending on what kind of network it's on. Do you think that the short story could you do a 3-act? I mean, if it's one of the 12-minute varieties, or should you just stick to the beginning, middle, the end? Because there is somewhat a difference between that idea of beginning, middle, and end, and the 3-act structure that movies employ, I guess.
Going on talking about like outlining and thinking of ideas based on an outline,
Right.
3-act structure helps you so much. 4-act structure helps you. Any structure helps you.
Right.
It's just something to drape your idea on, and it kind of helps you figure out where it's going. And then writing backwards helps too, because then you know exactly beat by beat where you need to go, where you need to end up. I know I like to study Breaking Bad because they do that perfectly. Like structure-wise, it's the best thing out there, in my opinion, just because beat by beat, you knew exactly how Walter White was supposed to devolve into Heisenberg. And that's what Vince Gilligan wanted. And I think when it comes to shorts, like, could you tell that story in 30 minutes? Like the entire Breaking Bad? Yeah, totally. In 10-minute segments. It wouldn't be very good.
Right. Well, I guess a better way to look at it is in the class that I took at Kennesaw State for writing for film and television, like we kind of did, like, it wasn't a hard fast rule, but about 7 beats per act. And I guess, just the structure of, just the length kind of doesn't allow it to do that. Would you say, like, obviously there's never really any hard rules, but there's kind of a general thing that do you cut it down to like 3 beats per what you would say would be the act, or just trying to like figure out how to, because you're dealing with shorter time, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Personally, I never use beats. I don't even bother with it, but I think it's a matter of what works. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really use
Right.
beats either.
I definitely wouldn't limit, like it's whatever it's gonna be, that's what it'll be. But it's good to have that as like a base to anchor it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think when it comes to beats, like these guys are saying, I don't think about beats when I'm writing. Like, I'll write a beat, like that happens. But like, I think all stories, if you can say when something is done, like when you're done with this idea, even though nothing's ever really done, it gets closer to the 3-act structure. Like, it does have 7 beats. Like, that's when you know it'll feel right to you, that it'll feel complete, that you can show it to the producer, or that you'll show it to your family, and they'll be like, okay, yeah, I get it. Just because that's how we tell stories. That's how it's ingrained in us to understand things that are communicated to us. So when it comes to something that you're writing, definitely don't take out a beat just because it's the 8th beat. I don't want it. If it works, it works. And I know that's what we keep saying. It's like, yeah, whatever works for you. But as far as like tips and tricks, abide by that structure. Shoot for it.
I have a question. What genres do you all like to write?
Ooh, wow, I write pretty much everything. My favorite genre is sci-fi. And I tend to write, all of my stuff tends to end up being either sci-fi or something like that, but I have written in every genre except for Westerns.
95% sci-fi, although I wrote one that has nothing to do with it, and I'm not sure where the hell that came from. But most of mine they end up being like Twilight Zones. It doesn't start off as sci-fi. You don't find out till the end, which is the only reason my wife likes them. So.
All right. I would say 95% of me is like comedy generally. So
I tend to be really dark, so anything thriller, never horror. I don't know why. It's just horror and me do not jive. But definitely like thriller, crime, kind of noir stuff. That gets me going. I've rediscovered my Coen Brothers bone inside of me, and so I don't know, like dark comedy is something that I'm really enjoying right now. But it's always got to have something dark. Don't know why. Dark. Breaking Bad.
What about you, Kat?
The majority of my writing has been comedy. That's kind of where I have been, but I've just been involved in developing a Western television show, and I've got 2 sci-fi projects on the burner now, so kind of all over the place.
I usually write dark comedy and drama, but my background is actually in songwriting, so a couple times I've incorporated some of my music into my screenplays, but dark comedy is usually my go-to.
Excellent. Anybody else with questions? Questions? Come on.
Based off what you were talking about earlier, if you're going to write a story about a person you know nothing about, like a different race, culture, gender, how do you research that? How do you get into their head? How do you write like how
Well, everybody's
they would-
got their own method. I use an odd, well, I guess it seems odd to me. When I try to come up with a name for a character, I look at how old they're supposed to be. Then I look at baby names the year they should have been born. That's just one of my starting points, because I see what would be their most likely name, then I look through the names, and I say, all right, who were their parents? What did their father and mother do? Where did they live? What was his upbringing? And try to write a little biography for them, because that fleshes out, you're never going to see it on the screen, but it gives you the backstory you need to.
And I do a lot of research too about if I'm writing about, and I do a lot anyway, because I don't like to write just certain, same like for instance, I'm a black female, so of course I know more about black females. But if I wanted to write for a white male, then I'm going to need to expand my, research, and because I don't want a white male to sound like a black female would sound on screen. So you always have to be doing, right? So you always have to be doing research no matter who you're writing about. If you're writing about a child and you want, of course, try to connect with some kids or something, or do a lot of research. One of my scripts that I wrote is all kids. So of course I did a lot of research in that area, and what age range likes this, and what, and so forth on up the scale. But yeah, you'd always want to find, you're always going to do research on whatever you're writing, and you're going to do that anyway, because you don't want your characters to sound the same.
One of my screenwriting heroes is Patty Chayefsky. He wrote Network and a bunch of other stuff. But he used to keep a book of baseball player cards, and he would just go flip through their names and pick a name that way, and usually something Polish, whatever. But he also, like when he wrote Network, which is one of my favorite movies, it's all about a news network satire. He actually was there for like 6 months watching that stuff happen. I, for one, based on where I am in the grand scheme of filmmaking, have never actually interned anywhere to figure out how somebody works. Usually, when it comes to research, I YouTube anything. Like paramedics, how do they work? I think somebody once said that as far as like writing and filmmaking is television or features, you have to know like how 4 things work: doctors, lawyers, cops, and religion, based on whatever religion you want to do. And I think familiarizing yourself with those gets you pretty much anywhere. Because knowing how someone in the movie Office Space works, you could BS that pretty easily. But knowing how someone like a skilled worker actually works, like There Will Be Blood. Paul Thomas Anderson had to read Oil, that book, to know how all that stuff worked. So get a big fat book on the subject. I don't think there's a big fat book on how to write like a black woman, but I imagine you probably know someone, or just people watch.
Yeah, I was here in Int'l, I've done that too. I mean, and people that you'll find that people are pretty open too, because I've gone to people that I didn't even know and just said, hey, that sounds really interesting what you're doing there. Can I, just pick your brain for a second, and, tell them what, and I've made appointments with people and just sat down in their office and say, hey, can you tell me a little bit about, I think one of my did was on domestic abuse, and I just kind of sat down with a counselor and picked her brain for a couple of hours, and it was really, the stuff that she was telling me was really invaluable, and I wouldn't have gotten that, and I didn't really know her. I just kind of cold called some counselors and said, hey, can I come and sit in your office for a couple of hours? Because like he was saying, I don't have like 6 months to research, because I have a day job, so I have to kind of get it in where you can.
Well, that's what adds authenticity to it, because one of my pet peeves, I spent 6 years in the Navy. When I see somebody that's written something that has to do with the military that's insulting to me because they didn't do their research, because it's just stupid. All films work by suspension of disbelief. Once you do something that's off key, that doesn't fit what reality is, then they're not watching the movie anymore. They're thinking about what was that. So, especially with the military, there's so many of us out there that have been in the military. At least talk to somebody that's been there and done that before you go writing about it, because otherwise you just look ignorant on film when they do it.
And also, if you write from a people's emotional core, we're all very much the same emotionally. The experience of life is different for everyone, and that's why everybody has a unique story viewpoint. But if you start with that emotional core, you can do the research for whatever you need to do from books or, like you said, YouTube or whatever you need to do, cultural immersion.
But I will say this too, don't get too caught up in the research, because you can spend years doing research on something and, and never be finished. You just need to get the basics and, of what you're trying to do and then move on from there, but don't spend years on research.
It's a great way to procrastinate.
Yes, it's a great way to procrastinate.
I have found when it comes to writing someone different, I'll find one or two things that only that person would know, and then I'm fine. I'm fine after that. Like, not that I have reached some level or anything, but just that I know that I've got insider information about that person. So if it's about, some Polish immigrant worker in the 1800s, I'll find 5 things that that person knew that I know no one else will know, and I'm usually pretty good at, after that point, it's seeming realistic or being able to suspend your disbelief.